Call the order of a special meeting of the Goodyear City Council, Monday, 19 April 2010. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Six members of the council are in attendance this evening. Councilmember Souza is a bit under the weather, and he will not be here. And I'll need to have him recused since this is a special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Vice Mayor Lord, a second from Councilmember Cavalier. All those in favor? No, roll call.
Vice
No.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Okay, if you've, what we're going to do at the agenda today is we'll do this all in this one meeting. We're going to start, we're going to ask you for a motion to go into executive session, at which time we'll be presented a presentation by our attorney, Mr. Massey, and that'll be on the legal advice and consultation regarding the installation of digital electronic marquees. We'll come out of the executive session, and then we'll get back to the special meeting, and that subject we'll then talk in open public meeting. And then after that, we'll have, I think, a very brief report on the Sonoran Valley Fire Services and the challenges that that's facing right now. Is that all right? Okay, so let's, could I have a motion to go into exec session?
So moved.
Okay, a motion from, was that which one? Okay. Motion from Councilmember Loretano and a second from Councilmember Cavalier. Roll call vote, please. Do I need a roll call on this? Yeah. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Okay, we'll go in exec session, and we'll be back when that's finished.
Boy, I'm getting sick for being gone tonight.
We're going to reconvene our special meeting. We've completed our executive session, and we'll move right to, I think, Harvey? Yep.
Betty, could we have the power? There you go. Cool. We have an audience there.
Hey, this could change.
Mayor, members of the council, this evening I'm here to present you some information about a proposal for placing digital electronic marquees on city-owned property. First thing, I'll give you a little bit of background information, talk about the public benefits, trends in the industry, some potential Goodyear sites for some signs, as well as some policy considerations, and then steps to implement the program if you want to pursue it. In your lower left-hand corner is a sign that was recently constructed within the city of Tolleson on private property, and you'll notice on the pole below the copy there's the city of, you can't really distinguish it very well, but it's city of Tolleson and their logo. And then also on the right-hand side is one of the City of Glendale signs on city owned property adjacent to Westgate, and they'll also have the city logo and the city of Glendale on the pole just below the copy. Background information. First thing is that this was a recommendation from the Citizen Budget Committee. For obvious reasons, it is a revenue generator. On city-owned property, the city of Glendale has reaped some large benefits, at least from the newspaper accounts and some of my discussions with City of Glendale officials. They have garnered quite a bit of revenue from the initial 2 signs that were constructed at the Westgate. My understanding is $500,000 up front and about $10,000 per month lease payment on the sign, plus a percentage of the gross receipts. And then they recently authorized 5 more signs on city-owned property along the 101 at different locations. However, they're not optimistic that they're going to get that kind of revenue in the future for a couple of reasons. Market saturation. These signs have become very, very popular in the valley. That the market is somewhat depleted on that. And then Tolleson had quite a debate that was followed in the paper. They approved a maximum of 2 signs on private property and they require a $3,000 per month fee. But that is on private property just for the right of advertising a digital marquee sign or billboard. We're going to use those terms synonymously on private property rather than city property. There's also some huge public benefit on these signs can afford us on city-owned property. In addition to revenue generation, they can talk about traffic conditions, upcoming traffic conditions, Amber Alerts. I'm familiar with Amber Alerts. Special event advertising. If we have events at the ballpark that we could advertise and let the public know about those. We can promote economic development activities on these signs. So they have some huge benefits in that regard. The next slide. Does it want to come?
Pushing it stalls sometimes.
It does? Well, I had some really good pictures. There they are. I wanted to give you...
Where are the really good pictures? I'm sorry.
Well, I had some pictures I wanted to show you. These are 2 examples of billboards and 2 examples of what we call off-site signs in the city. The one for the market at Estrella Falls in the left-hand corner is what we call an off-site sign, which is used through a comprehensive sign package where there's a mixed-use development or commercial development, a large scale, where we have signage as well as on the Lowe's property. We have a monument sign which advertises Lowe's and various users within the Lowe's property. These 2 are examples of off-site signs, not billboards. The other 2 are billboards within the city of Phoenix.
But unlike the new look, those have like they have a ledge around them and fence-like look.
Yes, one of the things that's evolved over the last several years is the old-style billboards. You're looking at examples of 2 old-style billboards, what we call static display, and we're now into the digital age where there's change copy and it's instantaneous. So it's made these a lot more popular and a lot more attractive as a marketing tool. So the old static billboards have kind of gone by the wayside. Some local examples, what's happening in some other cities. Phoenix allows billboards in commercial and industrial areas. Chandler and Tempe allow billboards via a use permit. Scottsdale, Gilbert, Avondale, Mesa, they prohibit new billboards. Glendale permits billboards through a license agreement. They also have, they have a provision in their code where you can replace a non-conforming billboard. You can add a new billboard in the community if you take out a non-conforming billboard. Glendale has that provision too. So on the right is the Tolleson, I believe that's the Tolleson sign, and then we, one of my very talented staff members, Brett Birmingham, put a Amber Alert, superimposed that on that. That was not one of Tolleson's, but he put that on there. There are 3 examples of freeway pylon signs that we allow within the city. These are allowed through a use permit in the commercial, industrial, and mixed-use developments, and we've allowed them, for instance, at Estrella Falls, down in the lower left-hand corner, the Lowe's sign. These must be approved through a comprehensive sign packages. They have to have at least 30 acres of contiguous property. There needs to be at least 1,000 feet of freeway frontage for these signs. We have a policy. They must be a minimum of a half a mile apart and no closer than 15 feet from the right-of-way and no greater than 200 feet from the right-of-way. So we have permitted these. I believe in the one in the middle is the Cancer Treatment Center sign. We have identified 3 pieces of property within the city as potential site for a marquee or a digital marquee sign. The first site, and I think this is the site that I think that staff feels that holds the most promise, is the Park and Ride site, which is located just behind the Holiday Inn Express on the north side of I-10, about 350 feet west of Dysart Road, behind. And I believe this is the area of the city that where the I-10 has the highest traffic counts within the city of Goodyear is at Dysart and I-10. As you go progressively to the west, the traffic counts decrease. So this has the best potential. It has a potential because the property surrounding it is commercial property. The hospital is located to the west. There's commercial property further to the north, and the impact to residential property, there is no, as far as I can tell, there's no impact to residential property. And we were looking at a site it's about the southwest corner of the Park and Ride facility, a very small piece of property where it could be accommodated. Another site, and we had a sign company approach us several months ago about putting a digital sign on this site. This is a water storage tank site on the south side of I-10, about 800 feet west of Dysart Road, behind I believe the Quality Inn motel now, and this site could accommodate a digital marquee sign. However, the concern I would have is there's apartments. You see the apartments just immediately to the south of that site. The motel is just to the east of the site. So there is residential development on the other side of the tank site, or on the west side of the tank site. So this site, while it could easily accommodate a digital marquee, may have impact on residential property. A third site is one that we recently acquired some property for the Bullard Wash drainage channel on the south side of I-10, about a half a mile west of Bullard Avenue. It's about a 10.6 acre site. This site could accommodate a digital marquee. Once again, we're not too far from Canyon Trails, some residential property. It could have an impact on that development. So that's a third alternative. Now we'll talk about what kind of design. In the left-hand corner, you'll see this is the Glendale model, and our design standards pretty much would not permit the sign on Glendale, the one that basically a single pole sign is prohibited within the city of Goodyear per our zoning code. The sign on the right-hand sign is one that we thought might, does a couple of things. It incorporates our monument sign, so we use it as a welcome sign rather than the sign that Glendale has just below their copy. You see this, just the small, you can hardly even see it. I don't, if you really have to look at it during the day, and it's not, obviously not readable at night, but this would make a really nice structure. The advantage in the Glendale sign is that it would bring less attention to the sign, at least the bulk of the sign, and focus more on the advertising. Our sign, the way it's designed here, may be fairly massive and bring a lot of attention to the driving public and may detract from the advertising on it. The other, obviously, the more things you add to the design of the sign, the less revenue there would be. So if we went with a very nice design to the right, there would be more costs associated with building a sign like that. The sign you see in Glendale is 80 feet high. Most of the Freeway Pylon signs that we have in the city right now they're 80 feet high, and you need about 80 feet because we have an elevated freeway, and to have any impact on the driving public, you need to be at least 80 feet high. The one we show on the right-hand side, the potential Goodyear design, is 60 feet high only. So it would probably need
The top of the sign or the top of the
top of the sign.
Hervey, on the Glendale ones, there's like a marquee on this side, a marquee on this side, and then there's a static sign on that. Is that what
Yes.
we'd be planning too? Like the third side is the triangle, it isn't one.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's open. I mean, we would whatever the council would want, that would be something that's totally open.
Did you say it was 80 feet? I'm sorry.
The Glendale sign.
No. What? I can't read.
That's 60 feet. What I'm showing you is 60 feet high, but I'm saying that that may not be, depending on what location we have and where the elevated freeway is, we may need to go higher to get the most bang for our buck. You need to be I think you might have to get it up to 80 feet to really have an impact. How would the Glendale pursue this, was able to construct these signs through a license agreement, basically a contract with American Outdoor Advertising. They've entered into contracts with them to place these signs on city property, and the city can control the design. They can control the how quickly the copy changes, the intensity of the illumination, ensure there's no animation or sounds. You know, we're not they're not creating Vegas. This is just signs for advertising with changeable copy in a digital format. So there's a lot of control the city would have on that through a license agreement. And I guess the first policy question, is the city interested in pursuing a license agreement on one or more sites that I've identified, or there may be other potential sites within the city. And then the other question would be is, should the marquee design be architecturally enhanced, as I showed you in a previous slide, or should it be kept relatively low scale, similar more to the Glendale model? Those are some of the policy questions. There may be other, obviously you'll have other questions. If you wish to pursue it, what staff is proposing is a public procurement process. We would prepare a request for proposal, scope of work, set up design parameters, or we could set it up where the company would submit a design to us and we could evaluate a design. We would need to prepare a draft license agreement. The council would need to approve that license agreement. Then we would have construction plans, required permits. Then the company would build the sign on city property. Then the city would have to oversight obviously the construction of the sign, as well as the operation of the sign, depending on if we want to impose restrictions on the type of copy. I also, the type of copy and how the information is given to the public. There is typically what the city can do is regulate if there's any advertising of like adult businesses that the council does not want to have within the city, we have ability to prohibit that through a license agreement. So that concludes my comments, and I'm open for questions.
Let me just, are we going to make a formal council decision to proceed, or are we just going to suggest you move ahead?
I think we're just looking for general direction.
Okay, so I'm not looking
We'll
for a
bring
motion.
we'll bring an RFP back, and
Okay. And would we have a public hearing on this? Could we do that?
We could, Mayor. I mean, at this point in time, we're just presenting it to council for general direction.
Okay, it wasn't on the steps, and I thought a public hearing might be in order for this, if we decide to move ahead. So it's open. Want to start, Joe?
Couple things. I like the idea of a public hearing, number one. Number two is, as we move forward for some of these Harveys, with the technology now with IT, is it possible to have various designs of the type of sign that would be up there, and maybe some ground level looks? Because you had three locations there. One location that was near residential, one location was near apartments or whatever, where you could actually do a 3D look of the sign sitting, by the apartments or by the residential, see what they would see out their backyard, type of thing, on how it would look. And from the sign perspective, as you're going down the highway, personally, I don't like a whole lot of distractions. I think and this is just my own personal view from a design standpoint, the bigger and the wider the sign, I think there's more of a distraction as you're going down the highway. And the last thing to kind of look at is what are we looking at from a revenue standpoint? I mean, are we looking at $5,000 a year? Are we looking at $500,000 a year? Are we looking at $1 million a year? I think it would be helpful as researchers and kind of move forward. What are we talking about from a financial impact as well? So, just some general comments.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the idea, and I'm all for it. I like the idea of the sign that has the Goodyear logo on it, so that we keep that as I know it might be a little distracting, but it's still part of Goodyear, and I think anyone coming through reading the sign will see they're in Goodyear, because it's like the other signs that are in the same design in the city. So I very much feel we should move ahead on it, and I'm in favor of us going all three sites if we can. I mean, as many as possible. As far as the apartments and homes, there should be a way to put a blinder of some kind on there, so that we don't get any direct light back into some of those areas that we don't really want the signage to shine in. So I'd like for them to look at something like that. I don't know if that's possible, and I don't know if that would work or not, because I'm not familiar with that technology. But if there's some way to put blinders up there to protect that, I guess it's the overlight, what do you call it, overflow of light into the residential, if it's close to a residential area. And we certainly need the public hearing to see what the residents of the city think. But I think the way these signs have progressed and the evolution of these signs, even in Las Vegas, when you talk about some of the things that have happened there, Las Vegas is moving away from the glitzy type thing. And thanks to a man like Wynn, who's come in and built the city center and his other, the newer hotels, they're very first class. They're upscale, and I think that besides the speakers on the signs, we don't want that, but the fact that they are moving in that direction, and I think that glitzy is not something that we want, but and I'm certain that that's something that some of us have had some concern about. But I'd like to see us move ahead on it.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
I agree. I'd like to see us move ahead on it, too. And I would like to see an example of an artistic one, sort of using, we're looking at dressing up our city and going into that direction, as well as something that's very sleek, like the one on, I think it's Camelback and 101. I think that's the location of it. I think the best location is the first one that you suggested, and that's the Dysart one. Not that I'm eliminating the other ones, but I think that's the one I'd like to focus on at the beginning. And I think this is going to open up lots of avenues for advertising, for a combination of small businesses advertising together to cut the cost, as well as big business, as well as safety issues in the city. So yes, I'm going in the positive direction of it.
Okay. Sherry?
I'm for it. I drive for these every day. I don't find them a distraction. I see one out, my building's at the Westgate City Center, so we're advertising Mecca there, and I can see one from my window, and I was timing it the other day the best I could, counting, and I didn't find it switching a lot. I was driving, I drive that freeway from Northern down past the Westgate. It switched maybe one time when I was there. So I'd be okay as long as we have enough of a period of time. I don't want all the Las Vegas, little trains going through it or something, but as long as it's along their model, I think it's great. I think it's got a good public safety component. It's got a good revenue raiser. I would like to hear from the citizens in those areas. I think the Dysart, the first one obviously has the less impact, but I think the first and the third one you showed both show good promise. I think they're further away. I think that's probably far enough from Canyon Trails. The second one, I don't know if with the first one, if that'd be a good sales anyway, because those seem to be just on the other side of the freeway from each other. So I would like to see us move ahead. I think we could, anyway, we could get like a discount for Goodyear businesses to advertise there.
I suppose you could specify within the RFP, couldn't you?
Just a thought.
It's something to be discussed in the contract negotiation. Might offset your end revenue, though.
I might get some more buy-in, though, from the community.
You could see what it does. You
Yeah.
can always look at it, and if it's worthwhile, then, give it a
Because
shot.
we do have a lot of small businesses that, and that freeway isn't going to be pretty no matter what you do to it once they took out all the trees. So, sorry, Joanne, it's just not pretty.
Oh, I know it's not.
So I'd like to have something that says like Goodyear on it, like the Vice Mayor was saying, so we can see we're here. And we get that traffic before Buckeye puts some up, because we've got all that traffic coming in from California, especially in the summer.
As far as the timing, the industry standards are once every 10 seconds.
I don't count so well, I guess, yeah. It didn't seem to change a lot when I was driving. It changed one time from Northern past, Camelback, so.
Maybe you drive slow. That's good. Or fast.
Joanne?
Oh, are you ready? Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Harvey. You did a great sales pitch. You had an opening, you romanced it, you had a closing. And I'd like you all to know that my policy judgment has not been hindered by eyes blinded by diamonds and gold and beautiful things, okay? But I do have 3 questions, and then I'm going to have my comments. How close is the proposed billboard to the Lowe's sign? What's the distance? Do you know, or is that something you need to get back to me?
Councilmember Osborne, we haven't determined the specific location, but that would be obviously a consideration of where we place it. But I was looking at placing it on the opposite side, as far away from the Lowe's sign as possible.
Okay, opposite side, all right.
Of the park and ride side, so it'd be as far away as possible. But it obviously can't hinder the existing freeway.
And within the ordinance that would, I would assume, have to come forth, what would be the distance between a pylon and a billboard? Would that be the same distance that we state already between pylons, or would there be a difference there?
Councilmember Osborne, what we're proposing is a license agreement to place these in specific locations on city property.
Well, I understand
and
that.
we would dictate, how far or how close it can be to a freeway pylon sign.
Okay.
And what we've done is we've identified where the existing freeway pylon signs are, where there is potential for new signs, and we'll make sure there's no conflict. But we're not proposing that the ordinance be changed or the distance requirement for freeway pylon signs. We would just, through our license contract or agreement, we would ensure that there wouldn't be any conflicts.
And with that, then we're stating that the city of Goodyear, on Goodyear property, would be able to have a sign, but a private landowner would not, is what we're stating. And lastly, Rourke, question-wise, what legal issue, if you had a motorist driving down the 10, and he looks up to see our sign and crashes and tries to sue the city, what stance do they have in that regard?
That's a very valid point and something we're researching. And obviously, I think why we would have some potential liability, obviously, if you sue somebody, you sue everybody. I think the sign company would probably be the first party, and I think just some of the preliminary research that I've done, there seems to be developing standards for how long a static display should be displayed prior to changing, because I think the biggest risk in the studies I'm reading is the change. That's what catches the attention from when it changes from one ad to the next ad. And how long should you have it static on one ad before it switches to the next ad? And this afternoon I was reading a Federal Highway Administration memo on this, and it seems the research is ongoing. They have a study underway. 8 to 10 seconds, and Harvey, correct me if I'm wrong, seems to be what the standard is. So obviously it's a concern. It's something that's being studied. The research that I've read so far doesn't indicate any necessarily higher incidence of accidents related to these signs than others. I would probably be more concerned about these photo radar cameras that flash you right in your face as far as what's causing liability on the road. But it's a developing area. From what I've read, there's an ongoing study to kind of develop what the standard should be for these types of signs. And Harvey, you may have better information than I have, but that's kind of what.
Yeah, just to elaborate on that, there's obviously two sides to this issue. There's the outdoor advertising industry that has done their own studies, and then there's those that are opposed to billboards, and they've done studies, and they have contrary information. So we got competing information there. But the Federal Highway Administration.
So there's no wrong answer then, is what you're telling me.
Well, that's kind of what I'm talking. There's the Federal Highway Administration has done a fairly extensive study, I guess, and they've issued a preliminary findings on it. They're expected to issue the final findings. I misspoke when I told John that they had issued it, but I found that they haven't. But they have talked about traffic safety and parameters that you need to go by in these preliminary findings in terms of, that's not only changeable copy, but the light intensity and some other issues that you'd have with digital marquee sign. So if you wish to pursue this, what we would do is within the scope of work or the bid specifications and the license agreement, we would basically emulate what the standards in the Federal Highway Administration in terms of safety is, and then ask any contractor to follow those. That's how we would pursue that.
Okay. Just a minute, Georgia. Thank you. I know that we want to do whatever we can for our businesses. I mean, that's a given. And this could be potentially something good for small and big business. I don't deny that whatsoever. I mean, I've had these companies call me to ask if I wanted to, purchase those spaces. But I'm going to, I know you all know how I feel about this, but I'm going to give you some things to think about. And first of all is safety. And Mayor and this council, a couple of years ago, you all took the noble stance that citizens and regional motorist safety was a #1 priority as related to the I-10 freeway. That stance was one of the key components of making our city an all-American city. This proposal could be, in fact, a step backward in the safety stance. Any distraction from a motorist could be detrimental. Please stick with your original goal and not let dollar signs blur your vision. I know that the community service message was something that was given, and that's nice. There again, though, you're asking a motorist to read it as they're driving by. A precedence is also stated here that do as I say, not as I do. What does this proposal say to the general public? We may go against our own ordinances and have digital billboards on government ground, but private landowner, you may not. We have time and time again gone against our own ordinances as it relates to pylon signs. We've stated that we're going to have distances between, and we've gone against them. What happens if Westcor comes back and says they don't want their pylons, they want digital billboards? These are questions that I've thought about. We are not Vegas, and we do not have an area like Westgate along this corridor. And what about the future 303? We have pylons along those sections also. We will be in the forever sign business, and at what price will it be to take one down? Now, I understand a little bit more about that, that this isn't necessarily our signs, it would be contractually, so that's kind of answered that. Lastly, to me, this is not an image enhancer or state-of-the-art technology. This is in-your-face signage. Yes, the freeway may not be attractive, but we do not need to help it by any way of making it uglier. So I will, I'm sorry. Lastly, for the Citizen Budget Committee, I'm very happy that they brought forth a revenue generator, and I'm thankful for that. Unfortunately, it's just something that I won't support. Thanks.
Okay. Great comments from everybody. I think we all find agreement on the fairness and safety issues that does concern us, and you brought them up very well. Just a couple points for me. One, I do think we need the license agreement if we do proceed. There's going to be a lot of signs in the area, and if this doesn't make a great revenue return, I wouldn't support it, frankly. So there's got to be, the $3,000 a month Tolleson thing is not going to sway us. Isn't even close. I like a simple, uncomplicated sign, and Vice Mayor used the word sleek. That's a good word for how I feel the sign should be. Basically uncomplicated, a little bit maybe about Goodyear, but the idea should be we're trying to market varying things, and I want the sign to look good. And then Park and Ride is a good place for a sign. And then later, probably 303 and I-10, you might want to think about that if we decide to do it. But it sounds like we sort of would like to proceed without any final determination.
And where is Dick? He's going to get it.
I think Dick would side with you, frankly. But there's a majority that would at least want to further look at this in a serious way.
On a safety issue, I just wanted to bring up that I drove back and forth on there, and it's a visual thing. And I would say, in my opinion, that your telephone and your texting is far more dangerous for people because their eyesight goes down. And so when I was driving, I thought, okay, I'm going to keep my eyesight just straight on the road. And in your peripheral vision up there, you see that sign. Have you noticed that as you drive along there? So you really don't go, or you really don't go like this. Your eyesight is trained, and you see it because it's so big from quite a distance. So it's not like you have to get up and you're driving underneath it. So, I would refute the idea that makes it a more dangerous sign.
Well, there's also the fact that the Highway Department has put the larger directional signs, lighted directional signs now on the freeways, and they bring a lot of information. And if you're looking up to see that, which I think is great because it's very usable, and I don't think that's a distraction because you're looking down the road, and as Vice Mayor says, your peripheral vision brings that into play, and that's the way I read that sign. So those signs are movable signs. There's a lot of information on them, and I don't think they distract. In fact,
But they're
the
for
Highway
safety.
Department doesn't seem to think they do.
Okay. We good?
Yeah, we're good.
I think what we'll do next is schedule the public hearing.
Yeah.
Rather than
Yes.
go through all the work before.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Harvey.
Okay. We have one more item, and that's a work session type of item, and that's just to get an update on the issues surrounding fire service in the Mobile area.
Thank
Mr.
you, Mr.
Fishbach?
Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is a very rapidly moving subject. We found out last week that Maricopa, our contract city for providing fire services to the Mobile area, was going to leave the Mobile fire station. as of last Friday, and they have left as of last Friday. We have been looking, okay, the reason they left was that the bank, the owners of the property right now for Montage, their property manager, who is I forget their name, but they have demanded that we get out of there within 2 to 5 days last week. So they upped, packed, and moved. They are now in the city of Maricopa, and they are still responding to calls that may come from Maricopa, but it will take roughly 18 minutes to get from downtown Maricopa to Mobile, which is, not satisfactory service. The mayor talked today to Mayor Smith of Maricopa, and Jim, if I misstated, but Mayor Smith indicated that he wants to keep the good relationships with the city of Goodyear, and that I'm supposed to meet with Kevin Evans tomorrow when he's back from Washington, D.C., and their Director of Public Safety. And what we're doing, we've scheduled this meeting to talk about what are the options. If the options are us renting the site, I mean, we can work that out with the bank. What the bank is trying to do is recoup the $3,600 that they pay in property taxes, which is not a big deal in a year, I mean, given what we've been paying. So that's basically where it sits right now. We've talked with Kevin Evans, the manager, and we've also, Mark Gaylor talked with the Director of Public Safety. They're both very aware of our concerns. The mayor, Mayor Smith and Mayor Kavanaugh have now talked. So I think that it will end up being a good solution, but it's still in a very moving, mobile state. If we had to, one option would be that we have to look at, okay, if the worst comes to worst, and we have to somehow provide services to our citizens in Mobile, what would we provide? We could go back to, the city of Maricopa would still provide fire protection, and in fact they're required to because they joined the automatic aid of Phoenix because of our assistance to get into that. And we could furnish a 2-man crew down in the Mobile area to handle the emergency medical. That would cost the city anywhere from $400,000 to $600,000 right now is our best estimate, without doing detailed cost estimates.
That's per year.
Well, that would be, compared to what it was originally when we set up the fire department down there, was rather substantial. So that's where we're working on right now. That's the what's at risk. That's what probably going to happen, and we'll let you keep you posted.
John?
Oh, excuse me, one thing.
Okay.
I did talk with Dr. Wood Friday, and just let her know we're aware of this. She was upset with Maricopa that this happened, but she was also wondering, okay, what are we going to do? So I called her and told her that we're aware of the whole thing and advised her what we're doing. I did not talk about the 2 mayors talking because that just happened today. And I'm supposed to call her back tomorrow morning and let her know what happened tonight, if anything, and what we're going to be doing. Sorry, Joe.
No, that's okay. Sounds to me that this could be as simple as a $3,600 fix.
It could be.
It could be. Because you had mentioned the bank just wants to recoup its $3,600 on its property tax. So I'm hoping that's the fix.
We hope so. We don't know that for a fact, but we hope so.
Okay.
It's okay, we're going down the line here?
Yeah.
I did just want to propose something to everybody that, 3 years ago, we did this annexation, and I do not recall a single council meeting being down Mobile. And I think it's time we should. I think that I ran into a couple of the, if you had one, then I wasn't present for that one meeting. But besides, it's time to do it again then. And
No, it is time.
I ran into a couple of the residents there, and they'd like to see us. So we need to be
You
seen.
have 4 people show up.
Well, no, I don't know.
Well-
I don't know. I think if they talk to, I think we could get.
Yeah, we did
I
have
think
4
what
too.
I think
Yeah,
what happens is
we
that
have
we
4
talked
people.
about we can't publicized. I mean, there's no equipment down there to make it public.
Right.
So I think it was suggested just recently, and I think that was one of the hesitations, okay, we can't put it on video in that area, so
Sure.
I guess we have to work that out, find out what
We
the
just need to do our,
implications are, but absolutely
put
they're
our,
important.
put our foot forward and see if we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, we agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to get down there. We good? And we'll hear more tomorrow on the next day.
Thanks for
I will send you an email.
Yeah, well, he and I have good relationships, so it's good. Okay, communications. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that from the census participation, we're at 70% right now, which is 1% ahead of where we were in 2000 at this time. So we're doing well as a community, and that will stop on April 22nd when they close the books and then start the personal contact.
I think at the MAG meeting, when I substituted for you, I think the Mesa mayor made a challenge to all the other cities to see who was going to get the highest number. So and I looked in the paper.
I mean, the
and-
highest percentage.
Percentage, thank you. And I think most of them were in the 68 or 65%. So I just say that to you, Mayor, so if you want to get really competitive with them the next meeting.
The
And,
national average is 69.
Yes, and if we can encourage our citizens so that we could win that, that would be,
What do we win?
well, with that our citizens are the most thoughtful, that sent in the applications and.
Well, what do we win?
I'm not making
I don't know
cupcakes.
what, he didn't put a price on it, but I think just the win is that we have a caring public and they came forth and did what they needed to do.
But I want to win something.
I'll buy you a candy bar.
No.
Okay, we have no information, opportunity for anyone from the public who would like to speak on a non-agenda item. Seeing none. Any current events from council?
I have an item that I think I should tell you about because as you know, back in last month sometime, we received from CDAC, we received from the county $226,446 for the Goodyear Parks improvement, and there was some money left over from another project, and that was distributed to all of the cities that received allotments, and now we are up to $257,029. So we received more money on this for the parks improvement by about 25,000. Yeah. So anyway, I thought it was significant enough to bring up.
Okay.
If I may, one other, the name of the firm came to my mind, Evergreen Devco, which is the
yes.
developer of the Target
Yes.
property, is their current
That's-
property manager, so.
They're also one with the QT, bringing in QT too.
Any comments from the city manager
That's
further?
it, thank
Inquiries of staff by council.